12-year-old girl marches into Judge Caprio's courtroom with enough attitude to fill the entire room. She's not the defendant, she's just tagging along with her mother, or so everyone thinks. What begins as a routine traffic hearing quickly shifts into something else, a moment that becomes a lesson in respect, accountability, and how real life works. Because when you talk back in this courtroom, you don't just face the law, you face reality. Parents watching this will understand. Raising good kids isn't about making them comfortable. It's about making them responsible. Drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? And if you believe that consequences create character, subscribe to Case Closed so stories like this never disappear. Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m., Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio sits at his bench reviewing the afternoon docket. The case seems routine at first glance. Sarah Martinez, age 34, cited for 3 unpaid parking tickets and an expired vehicle registration. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would suggest what's about to unfold in this courtroom. The bailiff calls the case, and the heavy wooden doors at the back of the room swing open. Sarah Martinez enters first. She's a woman in her mid-30s wearing scrubs, the kind nurses wear after a long shift. Her shoulders are slightly hunched, carrying the weight of exhaustion that comes from working multiple jobs. Her hair is pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes show the weariness of someone who hasn't had a full night's sleep in years. She walks toward the bench with the hesitant steps of someone who knows they're in the wrong, but doesn't have the resources to make it right. Behind her, moving with an entirely different energy, comes Madison. Madison Martinez is 12 years old, but she carries herself with the confidence of someone who has never been told no and meant it. She's wearing designer clothes head to toe, the kind of outfit that costs more than her mother probably makes in a week. Expensive sneakers that look like they've never touched actual pavement. A jacket with a logo that screams status. Gold jewelry catches the courtroom lights, bracelets jangling as she walks. But it's not the clothes that catch everyone's attention. It's the attitude radiating from every movement she makes. Her face is buried in her phone, thumbs moving rapidly across the screen. White earbuds are wedged in both ears, the cord dangling against her chest. She doesn't look up when she enters, doesn't acknowledge the judge, the bailiff, or even the other people in the gallery who have turned to watch this unusual entrance. She's in her own world, and that world clearly doesn't include this courtroom or anything happening in it. Her mother glances back at her, a look that mixes embarrassment with resignation, the expression of a parent who has fought this battle too many times and lost. The gallery, the collection of people waiting for their own cases or simply observing the proceedings, immediately picks up on the dynamic. An elderly woman in the third row leans toward her companion and whispers something, shaking her head. A middle-aged man in a work uniform crosses his arms, his expression already showing disapproval. Even the court clerk glances up from her computer, eyebrows raised slightly. There's an energy in the room now, a collective awareness that something is off about this picture. Judge Caprio watches the pair approach. His expression remains neutral, professional, but his eyes are sharp. He's been on the bench long enough to read people, to see beyond the surface, and what he's seeing now concerns him. A tired mother in medical scrubs who can't afford basic expenses. A daughter dripping in luxury brands, completely disconnected from the struggle happening right beside her. He clears his throat and speaks, his voice calm and measured. "Miss Martinez, please approach the bench." Sarah Martinez steps forward, but before she can speak, Madison's voice cuts through the courtroom. "Can we hurry this up? I have plans." The words are loud enough to carry, spoken with the casual entitlement of someone who genuinely believes their time is more valuable than everyone else's. She still hasn't looked up from her phone. Sarah's face flushes red with embarrassment. She turns slightly, her voice a harsh whisper. "Madison, please, not now!" Judge Caprio's expression doesn't change, but there's a subtle shift in his posture.
He leans forward slightly, his hands folding on the bench in front of him. "Young lady, I'm speaking with your mother. Please wait quietly." It's a simple request, stated with the calm authority of someone who expects to be heard. But Madison doesn't remove her earbuds. She doesn't even look up. Instead, she lets out an audible sigh, dramatic and exaggerated, the kind of sound designed to communicate maximum irritation with minimum effort. She shifts her weight from one expensive sneaker to the other, her entire body language screaming impatience. The gallery reacts immediately. More whispers ripple through the benches. A woman in the back shakes her head in disbelief. The man in the work uniform uncrosses his arms, only to recross them again tighter, his jaw clenched. Even the bailiff, standing near the door with the practiced stillness of someone who's seen everything, raises his eyebrows slightly. This level of disrespect is uncommon, especially not from a child.
Judge Caprio notes every reaction, his experienced eyes taking in the room's temperature. He returns his attention to Sarah Martinez, but makes a mental note. This won't be his last interaction with the young lady standing behind her. Judge Caprio turns his full attention to Sarah Martinez, his voice returning to its professional tone. "Miss Martinez, you're here regarding 3 unpaid parking tickets totaling $450 plus an expired vehicle registration. Can you explain your situation?" Sarah takes a breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, knuckles white with tension. "Your Honor, I work as a registered nurse at Providence General. I've been picking up extra shifts wherever I can, and I also work weekends doing catering to make ends meet. The tickets, they just piled up while I was trying to keep everything else together. My registration expired because I couldn't afford the renewal and the repair work the car needed to pass inspection at the same time." Her voice is steady but quiet, the voice of someone who has had to explain their financial struggles too many times to too many people. "I'm not making excuses, Your Honor. I know I should have handled this sooner. I'm just asking for time to pay. I can do $50 a month if that's acceptable." Judge Caprio nods, his expression softening slightly as he reviews her file. Before he can respond, Madison's voice slices through the moment like a knife. "Oh my God, Mom, just pay it so we can leave. This is taking forever." Every head in the courtroom turns. The interruption is so brazenly disrespectful that for a moment there's complete silence. Even the clerk stops typing. Sarah's face goes from embarrassed red to mortified crimson. She turns to her daughter, her voice sharp but desperate. "Madison!"
"Marie, I need you to be quiet right now, please." Madison finally looks up from her phone, but only to roll her eyes dramatically. "Whatever." She draws the word out, making it 3 syllables, each one dripping with contempt. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. His voice remains calm, but there's still underneath now. "Young lady, I need you to remain silent while I'm speaking with your mother. This is a courtroom, not a social gathering." Madison looks directly at the judge for the first time. She doesn't remove her earbuds. She doesn't put her phone away. Instead, she meets his gaze with a smirk that suggests she finds this entire proceeding beneath her. "Fine." She says the single word loaded with insolence. Then she looks back down at her phone, thumbs resuming their rapid movement across the screen. The gallery erupts in whispers. A woman near the front mutters just loud enough to be heard, "Unbelievable." An older man shakes his head slowly, his face showing the kind of disapproval that comes from a different generation, one that wouldn't have tolerated such behavior for a single second. Judge Caprio allows the moment to settle before returning to Sarah. "Ms. Martinez, you mentioned you're a nurse. How long have you been working in healthcare?" Sarah seems grateful for the redirect, eager to move past her daughter's behavior. 12 years, Your Honor, I work in the emergency department. It's demanding, but I love helping people." The judge nods. "And you're raising your daughter alone?" Sarah hesitates, and in that hesitation, an entire story lives. Yes, Your Honor. Her father and I divorced 3 years ago. It's just the two of us now. Before the judge can ask another question, Madison interjects again, this time without even looking up from her phone. Not
Really alone. I see Dad all the time. He actually has money. The statement hangs in the air, cruel in its casual delivery. Sarah's shoulders slump forward as if she's been physically struck. Her eyes glisten with the beginning of tears that she's clearly fighting to hold back. The gallery's reaction is immediate and visceral. Gasps and sharp intakes of breath echo through the room. The woman who muttered earlier now sits forward, her hand pressed to her chest as if personally wounded by the comment. The elderly man who had been shaking his head now stares at Madison with open disbelief. Judge Caprio's hands tighten almost imperceptibly on the edge of his bench. "Miss Martinez," he says to Madison, his voice dropping to a tone that makes everyone in the courtroom sit up straighter. "That comment was disrespectful and cruel. You will not speak that way about your mother in this courtroom or anywhere else in my presence." Madison shrugs, a gesture of supreme indifference. "I'm just saying the truth. Mom works all the time, and we're still broke. Dad works and actually has nice things. It's just facts." Sarah makes a small sound, something between a gasp and a sob that she tries to swallow. She turns away from her daughter, facing the judge fully now, as if physically blocking Madison from her line of sight might somehow block the pain of those words. "Your Honor, I apologize for my daughter's behavior. This isn't how I raised her." Judge Caprio's gaze shifts between mother and daughter, his experienced eyes reading the dynamic with clarity. Clearly, someone is raising her differently now. Sarah's voice drops to barely above a whisper. Her father. He fills her head with ideas about success and money. He buys her things I can't.
afford makes me look like a failure in her eyes. Madison scoffs loudly. You make yourself look like a failure, Mom. I don't need Dad's help with that. The courtroom explodes in reaction. Multiple people gasp audibly. A woman in the back row stands up, her face flushed with anger before her companion pulls her back down. The bailiff takes a step forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his position by the judge's bench. Sensing that the situation is escalating beyond a typical hearing, Judge Caprio raises one hand, a simple gesture that immediately quiets the room. His voice when he speaks carries the weight of decades on the bench and the authority of someone who has seen every kind of human behavior and will not be shocked, but also will not tolerate certain lines being crossed. Miss Martinez, he says, addressing Madison directly, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that finally makes her look up from her phone and actually pay attention. You have just crossed the line in my courtroom. The courtroom is silent, in a way that feels heavy, oppressive. Every person in the gallery leans forward slightly, sensing that something significant is about to happen. Judge Caprio's gaze remains fixed on Madison, who has finally stopped looking at her phone, though she still holds it in her hand like a security blanket. The smirk is still there, but it's lost some of its confidence. Something in the judge's tone has finally penetrated her bubble of entitlement. Your Honor, Sarah begins, her voice shaking. I can handle this at home. Please, let's just discuss the tickets. Judge Caprio raises his hand gently, his eyes never leaving Madison. Miss Martinez, your mother is trying to protect you right now. The question is whether you deserve that protection.
That protection. Madison's phone suddenly buzzes loudly, the vibration audible in the quiet courtroom. Without thinking, without any awareness of how inappropriate it is, she looks down at the screen. Her face lights up. "It's my dad," she announces, as if this information is relevant and important. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through with surgical precision. "Put that phone away immediately." Madison's thumb hovers over the screen. "But he's calling me." I said immediately. There's no anger in the judge's voice, but there's something more powerful than anger. There's absolute authority, the kind that cannot be argued with or negotiated. Madison hesitates, then makes a choice that will define the rest of this hearing. She answers the call. Dad, yeah, I'm stuck in court with Mom. She's being all dramatic about parking tickets again. The courtroom erupts. Multiple voices rise at once. The bailiff moves forward quickly. Judge Caprio's hand comes down on his gavel. Once, the sharp crack, silencing the room instantly. Ms. Martinez, end that call right now and hand your phone to the bailiff. Madison pulls the phone away from her ear, staring at the judge with genuine shock. You can't just take my phone. That's like illegal or something. In this courtroom, I can and I will. Bailiff. The bailiff extends his hand, his expression neutral but firm. Madison clutches the phone to her chest. This is theft. My dad's a lawyer. He'll sue you. Judge Caprio's eyebrows rise slightly. Your father is a lawyer? Madison nods vigorously, seeing this as her trump card. Yes, and he said I never have to let anyone take my property without cause. The judge's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Understanding, perhaps, or confirmation of a suspicion. He looks at Sarah Martinez. Ms. Martinez, is your ex-husband an attorney? Sarah nods miserably, her face in her hands now. Yes, Your Honor. He practices corporate law downtown. And does he pay child support as ordered by the court? Sarah's voice is barely audible. He's supposed to pay $800 a month. He's 8 months behind. The gallery's reaction is immediate and loud. Whispers turn to exclamations. A man in the second row says clearly, 8 months? A woman nearby adds, but he can buy her all that? She gestures toward Madison's expensive outfit. Judge Caprio picks up a pen and makes a note. 8 months. That's $6,400. Sarah nods, unable to speak. And yet your daughter just mentioned he has money for nice things. Sarah's voice breaks. He lives in a penthouse downtown with his new wife, takes Madison shopping every other weekend, buys her whatever she wants. I can't compete with that, and he knows it. Madison's face flushes. You're just jealous because Dad upgraded. The words are meant to wound, and they hit their target perfectly. Sarah makes a sound like she's been punched. Several people in the gallery gasp audibly. One woman stands up, pointing at Madison before the bailiff gestures for her to sit. Judge Caprio's voice when he speaks is quiet but fills every corner of the room. Miss Martinez, give the phone to the bailiff now, or I will hold you in contempt of court. Madison's bravado finally cracks. I'm 12. You can't hold a kid in contempt. Watch me. The bailiff takes another step closer. Madison looks at her mother for help, but Sarah has turned away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The reality of the situation finally seems to penetrate Madison's armor. With exaggerated reluctance and a dramatic sigh, she hands the phone to the bailiff. This is so unfair, she mutters. Judge Caprio accepts the phone from the bailiff and places it on his bench. Now, Miss Martinez, you're going to stand there quietly while I speak with your mother. If you interrupt again, there will be consequences you won't like. Do you understand? Madison crosses her arms tightly across her chest, but nods. I asked you a question. Do you understand? Yes, Madison says through gritted teeth. Yes, what? Madison's eyes flash with anger, but she's smart enough to recognize she's losing this battle. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Caprio returns his attention to Sarah, his expression softening considerably. Miss Martinez, tell me about your situation. Not the tickets, your life. Sarah wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't want to burden the court with my problems, Your Honor. You're not burdening anyone. I'm asking, so please tell me. Sarah takes a shaky breath.
After the divorce, I got the house, but I also got the mortgage and all the debt we'd accumulated. My ex got his career and his freedom. I work 60 hours a week between the hospital and catering jobs. I'm trying to save for Madison's college, trying to keep food on the table, trying to maintain a car that's falling apart. The tickets, I just couldn't pay them when they came. I kept meaning to, but there was always something more urgent. The electric bill, Madison's school fees, medical expenses. And your ex-husband, he pays nothing? Sarah shakes her head. He claims his new wife is pregnant and he needs to save money for the baby. His lawyer keeps filing motions for reduced support. We've been in family court 4 times in 2 years. I can't afford to keep fighting him. Judge Caprio makes another note. And during
This time, he's been taking your daughter shopping, buying her expensive clothes. Sarah nods. Every other weekend, she comes home with bags of things I could never afford. Designer clothes, jewelry, the latest phone, and she looks at me like I'm the failure because I can't give her those things because I'm too busy working to keep the lights on. If you can't believe what you're watching, hit that like button and subscribe to Case Closed for more moments where truth meets justice. Judge Caprio sits back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of his face. Judge Caprio lowers his hands and looks directly at Madison, who is still standing with her arms crossed, her body language radiating defiance, even though her eyes show the first hints of uncertainty. Miss Martinez, come stand directly in front of my bench. Madison doesn't move immediately. Mom, she says, her voice taking on a whining quality. Tell him I don't have to. Sarah doesn't turn around. She keeps her back to her daughter, her shoulders still trembling slightly. Do what the judge says, Madison. Her voice is flat, empty of the usual maternal protectiveness. Madison shuffles forward reluctantly, her expensive sneakers squeaking slightly on the polished courtroom floor. She stops a few feet from the bench, refusing to make eye contact. Judge Caprio waits until she looks up. When their eyes meet, he speaks in a tone that is neither harsh nor gentle, but carries the weight of someone who has seen too many lives damaged by the same patterns. Madison, do you know what your mother does at her job? Madison shrugs. She's a nurse. I asked if you know what she does, not what her title is. Madison's face shows irritation. She, takes care of sick people.
Or whatever. I don't know the details. Judge Caprio nods slowly. She saves lives. She holds the hands of dying patients. She works holidays and weekends. She comes home exhausted and still has to take care of you. And what do you do, Madison? What do you contribute? The question hangs in the air. Madison's mouth opens and closes. I'm in middle school. I don't have to contribute anything. I'm a kid. That's interesting, the judge says. You're a kid when it comes to responsibility, but you're old enough to judge your mother's worth based on her bank account. Madison's face flushes. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. You told this entire courtroom that your father has money and your mother doesn't, implying that makes him better, makes him more successful, makes him more worthy of respect. Madison looks away. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Silence. Madison stares at the floor. Judge Caprio continues. When was the last time you thanked your mother for anything? Madison's voice is small now, defensive. I don't know. Why does that matter? Because gratitude matters. Respect matters. Your mother is standing here humiliated because she couldn't pay parking tickets while working 60 hours a week to support you. And you're standing here acting like she's an inconvenience. Madison's arms tightened across her chest. She doesn't say anything, but her jaw is clenched. Judge Caprio leans forward. Let me tell you something about your father, Madison.
A man who is 8 months behind on child support but takes you shopping for designer clothes isn't teaching you about success. He's teaching you about manipulation. He's buying your loyalty because it's easier than being a real parent. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Every eye is on
Madison, whose face has gone pale. That's not true. He loves me. I'm sure he does. But love without responsibility is just empty words. Your mother loves you too. The difference is she's actually sacrificing for you every single day. Madison's voice cracks slightly. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like. You're right. I don't know what it's like to be 12 years old with divorced parents, but I do know what it's like to watch children grow into adults who have no concept of respect, gratitude, or empathy because no one taught them those things when it mattered. And right now, Madison, you're on that path. A single tear rolls down Madison's cheek, though she quickly wipes it away, trying to maintain her tough exterior. Judge Caprio's voice softens slightly but remains firm. Here's what's going to happen. Your mother came here tonight asking for help with tickets she can't afford because she's been too busy keeping your life together. I'm going to reduce her total fines to $50 and give her 90 days to pay. Madison's face shows the beginning of relief, thinking this ordeal is over. Can we go now? Oh, because you're not done here. What? Judge Caprio's expression becomes serious again. You may not be the one with the traffic citation, but you've shown such profound disrespect in this courtroom that I'm making a judgment call about your character and your future. Madison's eyes widen. What does that mean? It means I'm ordering you to complete 40 hours of community service. You can't do that. I'm just a kid. You keep saying that, but you haven't been acting like a child. You've been acting like someone who thinks the world owes them something. Community service will teach you otherwise. Madison turns to her mother desperately. Mom, tell him he can't do this. Sarah finally turns around. Her eyes are red from crying, but there's something new in her expression. Something harder, more resolved. Your Honor, she says quietly, I support your decision completely. Madison's mouth drops open in betrayal. Mom, what are you doing? Sarah takes a step toward her daughter. For years, Madison, I've made excuses for your behavior. I've told myself it's the divorce, it's your father's influence, it's your age. But today, watching you disrespect me in front of all these people, I realized I've been failing you by not setting boundaries. Judge Caprio is right. You need to learn what real work looks like, what real struggle looks like. Madison's voice rises to a near shout. I can't believe you're doing this to me. You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side, Sarah says, her voice steady now, despite the tears still streaming down her face. That's exactly why I'm agreeing with this, because letting you continue down this path isn't love, it's neglect. Judge Caprio nods approvingly at Sarah before returning his attention to Madison. You'll complete your 40 hours at Sunset Nursing Home. You'll help care for elderly patients who have no family visiting them, people who work their entire lives and are now alone. You'll do it every Saturday for the next 10 weeks, 4 hours each day. Madison's face is now streaked with tears, her carefully constructed armor completely shattered. This isn't fair! Fair, Judge Caprio's voice takes on an edge. Your mother working 2 jobs while your father lives in luxury isn't fair. Your mother going without so you can have school supplies isn't fair. But consequences for your behavior? That's not about fairness. That's about accountability. And
Madison, accountability is something you're about to learn intimately. The gallery sits in stunned silence, many nodding in agreement, some wiping their own eyes. Judge Caprio isn't finished. Before you leave this courtroom, you owe your mother an apology. Madison stands frozen, her face wet with tears, her body language completely different from the arrogant girl who walked in an hour ago. Judge Caprio's words hang in the air like a sentence waiting to be carried out. You owe your mother an apology, and you're going to give it to her, right here, right now, in front of everyone in this courtroom. Madison's voice comes out as a whisper. Can't I just apologize at home? No! You disrespected her publicly. You humiliated her in front of strangers. You'll apologize the same way. Madison looks at her mother, whose face shows a mixture of pain and something else, something that might be hope. The courtroom is so quiet that the sound of the air conditioning becomes noticeable, a low hum filling the space where human voices should be. Madison takes a shaky breath. Mom, I'm sorry. Judge Caprio's voice is gentle but unyielding. Say it like you mean it, Madison. Look at her. Really look at her and say what you're sorry for. Madison's face crumples. Fresh tears spill down her cheeks, taking mascara with them in dark streaks. She takes a step toward her mother, her hands trembling at her sides. Mom, she begins again, her voice breaking on the single syllable. I'm sorry for what I said about you, about Dad having money and you being broke. I'm sorry for being embarrassed of you. I'm sorry for not seeing how hard you work. Her voice drops to barely audible. I'm sorry for making you feel like you're not
Enough, because you are. You're more than enough. Sarah's face transforms. The hardness that had settled there moments ago melts away, replaced by the tender expression of a mother who has waited years to hear these words. She opens her arms and Madison collapses into them, sobbing against her mother's shoulder. The expensive jacket and designer label seem ridiculous now, costumes on a child who suddenly looks very young and very lost. Sarah wraps her arms around her daughter, one hand coming up to stroke her hair, the automatic gesture of maternal comfort that transcends anger and hurt. I love you, Sarah whispers. I've always loved you, even when you make it hard, especially when you make it hard. The gallery watches with tissues pressed to eyes. The woman who had gasped earlier is crying openly. The man in the work uniform has his hand over his mouth, his own eyes glistening. Even the bailiff, who prides himself on professional detachment, looks away for a moment, blinking rapidly. Judge Caprio watches the embrace with an expression that suggests this is why he does this job. Not for the fines or the regulations, but for these moments when something broken begins to mend. He allows them a long moment before speaking again, his voice soft. Miss Martinez, look at me. Madison pulls back from her mother, wiping her face with her hands, leaving smears of makeup across her cheeks. You're going to start your community service this Saturday. The coordinator at Sunset Nursing Home is expecting you at 9 in the morning. You'll work until 1 in the afternoon. You'll do this for 10 consecutive Saturdays. Madison nods, unable to speak. And Madison, one more thing. Yes, Your Honor. This isn't a punishment designed to hurt you. It's an opportunity
to grow into someone better than who you were today. The people you're going to help, they've lived full lives. They've worked hard. They've struggled. They have wisdom you need. If you're smart, you'll listen to them. Madison nods again, something in her expression suggesting the message has landed. Thank you, Your Honor, she says quietly. 6 weeks pass. The courtroom is busy on a Thursday afternoon when Sarah Martinez appears again, this time without a citation, without a legal obligation to be there. She's asked to speak with Judge Caprio, and he's agreed to see her during a break in the docket. She enters with Madison beside her, and the change in the girl is immediately visible. The expensive clothes are gone, replaced with simple jeans and a modest sweater. No jewelry except small earrings. Her hair is pulled back in a practical ponytail similar to her mother's. Most notably, there's no phone in her hand. She walks beside her mother instead of behind her. And when they approach the bench, she meets the judge's eyes with something that looks like respect. Miss Martinez, Judge Caprio says with a slight smile, I wasn't expecting to see you back so soon. I hope everything is all right." Sarah's face breaks into a genuine smile, the first one anyone in this courtroom has seen from her. "Everything is more than all right, Your Honor. I wanted to update you on Madison's progress, and she wanted to say something herself." Judge Caprio nods at Madison. "Go ahead." Madison takes a breath, her voice steady and clear. "Your Honor, I've completed 32 of my 40 hours at Sunset. I wanted to come tell you that it's been—" She pauses, searching for the right word. "Life-changing. I met a woman there, Mrs. Chin."
She's 84 and no one visits her anymore. She worked 3 jobs her whole life to send her kids to college. When she talks about her life, about her struggles, I see my mom. I see what my mom is doing for me. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, his expression pleased. "And what else have you learned?" Madison glances at her mother before continuing. "I've learned that the stuff Dad buys me doesn't mean anything if it comes at Mom's expense. I blocked his wife on social media because she was always making comments about Mom not being able to afford things. And I've been helping more at home, doing dishes without being asked, helping with laundry, small stuff. But Mom notices." Sarah reaches over and squeezes Madison's hand. "She's been wonderful, Your Honor. She even got a part-time job at the library to help with expenses. She wants to contribute now instead of just take." Judge Caprio's eyes show approval. "Madison, do you remember what I told you about punishment being an opportunity?" Madison nods. "You said it's a chance to become someone better." "And have you?" Madison's voice is firm. "I'm trying every day. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." "That's all any of us can do." The judge stands, a gesture of respect that surprises both mother and daughter. "Miss Martinez, both of you, you came here weeks ago as 2 people who had lost their way with each other. You're leaving today as a family that's finding its way back. That's the best outcome this court could hope for." Sarah's eyes fill with tears again, but these are different. These are tears of gratitude and relief. Judge Caprio has one final piece of wisdom. "Madison, the world is going to tell you that
Success is measured in money and possessions. Your mother has shown you the truth. Success is measured in character, in sacrifice, in love that doesn't quit even when things are hard. Don't forget that lesson." Madison shakes her head. "I won't, Your Honor. I promise." As they turn to leave, Madison puts her arm around her mother's shoulders, and Sarah leans into her daughter, the 2 of them walking out together in a way they haven't in years. The courtroom watches as they leave, the door closing with a soft, echoing thud. Judge Caprio takes his seat again, but this time there's a quiet smile on his face. Not smug, not victorious, a smile of purpose, because today wasn't just about a traffic ticket. It was about a moment that might shape a young life forever. Judge Caprio has never been just a man who enforces the law. He's a man who believes in teaching without humiliating, correcting without crushing, and leading with dignity. Where others see attitude, he sees a chance to rewrite a future, and that's why people around the world admire him. He doesn't just settle cases, he settles hearts. If stories like this remind you that accountability still matters, if you believe that respect is earned through wisdom, not fear, subscribe to Case Closed for more real courtroom moments that reveal the power of empathy. Hit like if you believe every child deserves to learn the value of character. Comment below, what would you have done in Judge Caprio's place? Because this story isn't just about a frustrated parent and a defiant child. It's about all of us, about the values we choose to pass forward, about kindness without weakness,
about strength without cruelty. And most of all, it's
The legacy of Judge Frank Caprio. A legacy proving that justice isn't only about laws. It's about the lessons that change lives.